Pierre Gasly has to be on his best behaviour for the next 7 months in Formula 1. That's because he's hanging on the precipice of an automatic one-race ban, one that will be triggered if he picks up just 2 more super licence penalty points in the next 9 races. Yet absurdly, he really hasn't done enough wrong to justify being in that situation. Other drivers have been close to such a ban before, for example Sebastian Vettel in 2019 and Lando Norris last year. But none have had to walk the tightrope for as long as Gasly will after accruing 10 penalty points in the last 15 race weekends. He's already had a near miss because the 1-year lifespan for penalty points means the 2 he earned for contact with Fernando Alonso at the first corner of last season's Turkish Grand Prix disappeared just 20 days before his latest violation in Mexico. So how did Gasly get into this position? What exactly has he done wrong? And what does it reveal about the failings of the system? F1's penalty point system was only introduced in 2014. Prior to that, the rare occasions drivers were hit with race bans were for specific extreme incidents. But such formal bans were very rare, although there was the odd unofficial ban, for example Riccardo Patrese from the 1978 United States Grand Prix, or Yuji Ide losing his super licence in 2006. We have Romain Grosjean to thank for the adoption of the penalty point system. Then, driving for Lotus, he was banned from the 2012 Italian Grand Prix for triggering an accident at the start in Belgium that eliminated Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. The FIA stewards deemed it an extremely serious breach of the regulations and said that even the Lotus team conceded it was an extremely serious mistake and error of judgment. Grosjean hadn't endeared himself to rivals since returning to F1 in 2012. The ban happened even before Mark Webber famously branded him a first-lap nutcase at the Japanese Grand Prix. But Grosjean had been involved in a number of incidents, including tipping Michael Schumacher into a spin in Malaysia that season, and had built up a bad reputation. It was felt that this contributed to the stewards banning him. So this played a part in the FIA realising a formalised system was needed that could set the bar for when to ban consistent troublemakers, even if they didn't cause as significant an incident as the one Grosjean did. That led to the birth of the super licence penalty point system. And while points have been dished out regularly, peaking with a total of 79 in 2018, nobody has yet triggered a one-race ban. The points are awarded based on the nature of the offence and automatically accompany other penalties. So you won't just get, say, a 5-second penalty, but also a penalty point or 2 from the stewards. The desire for consistency means that there's a set tariff of penalty points for certain offences. If you gain an advantage by exceeding track limits or are out of position at the start of the race, it's 1 point. For causing a collision or overtaking under the safety car, it's 2 points. And you get 3 for rejoining unsafely. The fact there is little room for manoeuvre in the penalty points issued has contributed to a concerning situation for Gasly, current employer AlphaTauri, and his 2023 team Alpine. Historically, Gasly hasn't been that trigger-happy when it comes to picking up penalty points. Since making his F1 debut for Toro Rosso in the 2017 Malaysian Grand Prix, he's accumulated a total of 18 points. That puts him equal 8th based on most penalty points scored since the system was introduced in 2014, which is headed by Sebastian Vettel with 32. But things have changed dramatically this year, and Gasly has astonishingly scored almost as many penalty points as the 17 World Championship points he's scored over the last 15 races. So what exactly has he done wrong? Gasly's first 2 penalty points were for causing a collision with Lance Stroll during the Spanish Grand Prix. His next 2 points were for causing a similar collision with the other Aston Martin driver, Sebastian Vettel, at Turn 4 during the Austrian Grand Prix. Gasly took his tally to 5 points, with 1 point awarded for exceeding track limits no less than 4 times during the Austrian Grand Prix. This also earned him a 5-second penalty, with the stewards finding no justifiable reason for what he did. The most serious of Gasly's offences was speeding under the red flag in the Japanese Grand Prix, which earned him another 2 points. Gasly pitted at the end of lap 1 for a nose change, having collected an advertising board spat onto the track by Carlos Sainz's accident. As he was catching the pack, he was later deemed to have driven in a reckless manner by not respecting yellow flags in the FIA report, triggered by driver concern about a recovery tractor being on track. But that wasn't what he got his penalty points for, given he'd respected the safety car delta, which hadn't reset after he'd visited the pits. His penalty was for speeding after the red flags were shown, about 1 second before he passed the tractor. He was found to have exceeded 200 km per hour on multiple occasions and reached 251 km per hour at one point. During the United States Grand Prix safety car, Gasly was given a 5-second penalty and 2 super licence penalty points for falling significantly more than 10 car lengths behind the car in front. Gasly felt unfairly singled out for this one, arguing with some justification that he was far from the only driver doing this. What's more, unlike Sebastian Vettel in the 2010 Hungarian Grand Prix when he backed up the field immediately before a restart to give teammate Mark Webber a big lead, it wasn't done for deliberate strategic reasons. Gasly's latest penalty point was for leaving the track and gaining an advantage when he overtook Lance Stroll for 15th place on the 13th lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. Interestingly, he wasn't done for forcing another driver off track. Had he been found to have done so, which would have been perfectly legitimate given Stroll was forced off, he would have gained an extra penalty point. Gasly must now somehow avoid adding another 2 points to his rap sheet to avoid a costly race ban. With the exception of speeding under the red flag at Suzuka, which really should have earned Gasly more than 2 penalty points given the safety implications of such dangerous driving, the list of offences is hardly indicative of repeated dangerous driving. Those at Aston Martin might disagree, given 3 of the incidents involved green cars as the victims, but they were honest and minor mistakes in battle rather than egregious ones. Gasly certainly needs to take a close look at the way he handles himself in battle to cut back on these incidents. He must also avoid getting too deep into the mindset that he's being persecuted by the stewards, even if his penalty for dropping too far behind the car ahead under the safety car at Austin was incredibly harsh. But he hardly needs the reality check of a one-race ban or the threat of one. It's not impossible Gasly will get through the next 9 events without picking up another 2 penalty points, and that will certainly be his aim. If he does so, you could argue the system works, as the sword of Damocles hanging over him might have forced him to modify his on-track behaviour. But there's a good chance he will commit another minor offence during this time. That could potentially create a troubling situation whereby the stewards are reluctant to issue penalty points. That doesn't mean he'll escape blame, but there are ways to reclassify certain incidents that could mean fewer points. The problem of F1's overly rigid super licence penalty point system is connected directly to wider stewarding problems. The case for permanent stewards is a strong one and would make it easier for there to be more flexibility within the penalty points issued to differentiate between what you might call run-of-the-mill incidents and minor errors and those that are more problematic and that, collectively, indicate a concerning pattern of behaviour. That doesn't mean the system needs to change to stop a relatively minor incident tipping a driver over the line for a ban, but the one-size-fits-all nature of the way points are handed out means that the point system is not fit for purpose. If Gasly's rap sheet was more problematic, there would be no such concerns. But his situation highlights that while the concept of a super licence penalty point system is a necessary one, its current form creates a situation where a driver could be hit with an absurd and needless race ban. That makes it yet another area where F1 is badly in need of reform.